Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm delighted.
Wow, what an organization you run.
It's a very exciting time for AARP. We have 38 million members. Very proud of the work that we do to help make life better for those who are 50 and older in this country.
Yes, it's exciting.
Very much.
Now, so you're 2 months into this position. Now, you've been involved with AARP for a long time in a lot of different ways, so it's not like it's brand new, but CEO is a different ballgame. What's it like?
It's very exciting. I tell people that I was the chief operating officer at the Library of Congress, and I thought I had the best job in town. But this is my second act, my fourth life here, and I'm really having the best time. I'm thoroughly enjoying the work that we're doing and seeing the impact, the positive impact that we can have on people's lives all across this country, and it's very exciting.
Now, so much of what you're doing is about, well, what you say is re-envisioning aging. Tell us about that. How do we re-envision something that's so familiar and we all think we know what it's all about? And
well, let me first say we're very fortunate to have all of these smart people, and I was just hoping that I'm one of those 5 with the frontal lobe, and that I'm doing my best to drink that red wine every night or so to do it. But
I'm going to sleep more.
But I really do think it's very important for us not to live in fear, and that we need to be changing the conversation in this country about what it means to age, and that 50 is not the new 30, and 60 is not the new 40, but 50 is the new 50. And it looks and feels very differently than it did for our parents' generations. And we ought to own that, and we ought to be unapologetic about coming up with solutions for all of us who are going to live hopefully some 30, 40 years past the age of 50. And so I sit and I think about all of the issues that we face in that post-50 life. But I also see an enormous amount of opportunity. You heard Mark and Paul talking about that earlier, that we have some 50 to 60,000 volunteers at AARP who do anything from prepared tax returns to volunteering in schools or helping neighbors or helping to deliver meals all across this country, and they love doing it. I was telling one of my colleagues the other day that we ought to retire the word retire, that people, even if they're leaving their paying jobs, that they still want to have more meaning and they want to do something that has real purpose. And many of them are working because they need to work. I like to call it push by pain or pull by possibilities, that they're really thinking about what they need to do. For many of us, they need to still work. But for a lot of people, this is the time in their life, which could be some 20 or 30 years that they're living in it, and really starting to do things that they really have always wanted to do. People over the age of 50 start more small businesses than people under the age of 30 in this country. And 10,000 people a day are turning 65. And you heard some of the other speakers today talk about this wonderful span. We call it the age of possibilities, that post-work life, and what it is that we ought to be doing to help others in this country, but also to find meaning in our own life. We know that there are a lot of health challenges. We want to live healthier lives in this longer lifespan, but it's also a great time of opportunity.
What about people who aren't in that group? Again, the question about democratization of aging. What about people who feel that aging is stigmatized and that they don't have many opportunities to do these things? They can't start a business, or they aren't able to pursue a new dream. How do we think about that and get them in the conversation? And what do you say to that?
Well, absolutely. And we shouldn't close our eyes to people across this country who need help. And I like to talk about this is that they want a hand up, they don't want a handout. They've been working, most of them, for many years, giving back to not only this country, but their family and neighbors. We actually have a program that we created called Life Reimagined, and it's a whole new methodology to think about what's next in your life and what you're good at, and how can we help you think through that. And we call it sort of this whole democratizing, this whole coaching that many people in corporate America, or if you're in that high end of your financial life, can have a professional coach. We actually have launched this new site called lifereimagined.org that you could actually go on and go through that process and speak to a professional coach and help you think through that. I will tell you of the close to 1 million people who have already gone on that site. Most of it is about work and about wellness. How do we get healthier, whether it's around physical fitness or mental health, around solving some of those issues around isolation and how do you get more engaged. But the majority of them come there about doing work and how work is so different that if you've been in the workplace in a job like most of us started our careers and we were at the same place for 20, 25 years, we don't have any idea how to reapply for that job to be able to do it. So a lot of that help is on there. And for most part, it's people our own age giving that counseling direct back and forth to them.
That's fabulous. 1 million people looking at this website.
Absolutely.
Wow. So the other thing you've talked about is disruptive aging.
Yes.
I mean, how does that happen, and how is AARP going to make it happen? So AARP, people think of AARP as like it's the government. It's so huge, and so how do you be nimble and disruptive in AARP?
Well, first, we're not a government agency. We're a nonprofit. But I will say that we hear every day from our 38 million members when we do something they don't like, they tell us. When we do something they do like, sometimes they tell us. But it's how do we, each and every one of us, take responsibility for not letting aging be this conversation about decline. That we have an enormous amount of experience and value that we bring to everything that we do. That I know I myself, I think I'm a more purposeful person being 56 years of age. That what I bring to the workforce, whether it's working with my colleagues or working with young people all across this country, that ought to be something that this country values. There are many foreign countries who the older you get, the wiser you get, the more respected. We ought to be doing that here in this country, so that with age brings experience and value and respect, and that there shouldn't be, nor though I think there is, as some talk about it, this intergenerational tension between, we know that the work that we've been doing with some of the programs, like we have with a program we call Mentor Up, where we have young people in high schools and colleges all around this country mentoring people who are 50 and older on how to use technology, whether it's that tablet or cell phone or getting connected so that they can do whatever it is they want to do. Most people say it's about connecting to family. The truth of the matter is it's connecting with friends that people who are 50 and older are doing. And people who are over the age of 50 are the fastest growing users of tablet technology in the country. And so we know that there is an opportunity not only for that space for intergenerational learning and sharing, but also for older people to give back and mentor and help. And it keeps this whole idea of keeping your brain active and keeping you involved. Much of the work that you've done really says that we know that if you're active and engaged, whether it's working to be paid or just working and doing something or volunteering, that you're going to live a healthier life. And so that's what we mean when we're talking about disrupting aging.
Interesting. There is an interesting research literature, too, emerging where volunteerism seems to have real health benefits, kind of comparable to exercise.
Yes.
You say, get out there and do something that matters, and it seems to be good for people's health.
I'll give you an example. One of the things that we do through our foundation is we do tax returns. We have 37,000 people over the age of 50 who volunteer to do tax returns, and last year they did 2.6 million returns. We actually are the 4th largest tax preparer in the country, and we do it all for free. And so think about the active minds that people, yes, how active that is, that people, and it's a totally volunteer run, that this system, we have 13 paid people and 37,000 volunteers who do it. And returning back to the taxpayers something like $2 billion in tax returns. But it keeps them, it's not for AARP, it's for helping people in communities with helping your neighbor. And I think that's so much of what we need to do.
Yeah. Impressive.
Thank you.
Now, I know I read an AARP survey a couple years ago that was asking questions about intergenerational tension and conflict and warfare we hear about. And this survey, as I recall, suggested there wasn't any real evidence for that, that if you ask younger people about supporting older generations, it's like, that's my grandma. Of course I want her to get a Social Security check. You know, I mean, that people are actually, that there's more connection. And I've been impressed with what AARP's done recently, where you're really focusing on young people.
We have a number of programs that we also run a program called Experience Corps, where we actually take our volunteer members into schools and do one-on-one tutoring for K through 3rd graders. Mark actually started that program, I'm told, years ago. But you know, when I talk to employers in the workplace and we talk about this enormous work shortage, whether it's around the healthcare space or technology space, we have millions of people who are over the age of 50 who can fill those jobs. You know, I often talk about these people at this stage of their lives. Financial rewards aren't always what they're looking for. It's flexibility in where they work and how many hours they work. It's the kind of work that they're doing. And we ought to be having an active conversation with employers all across this country about how do we match up this kind of work with older workers, younger workers, and sort of going through and actually mentoring each other. Because there is going to be, you know, as you were mentioning earlier, the birth rates are going down, and we're actually going to need an enormous amount of people, particularly in this health workplace and in some of the other areas, whether it's technology or in some of these service industries that certainly our members, not necessarily just AARP members, but people who are 50 and older can help contribute to the economy. The 50-plus population is a $7 trillion industry, and we ought to be having conversations so that companies are developing solutions to meet the needs of the 50-plus. As one of the gentlemen said earlier, most of the companies seem to be focused on this 17 to 29 age group, and I'm not saying we should in any way not focus on them, but when you think about, I don't know any other area where there is such a built-in automatic industry and opportunity than it is for the 50-plus market.
It's big.
Very big.
It may be one of the greatest contributions of the boomers is that, you know, if we had only known back at Woodstock that one of our greatest contributions would be, you know, changing the nature of retirement and aging. And
it is indeed. You know, we have an enormous opportunity for all of us to think about what it means to age, how we think about I call it health, wealth, and self. How do we have health security, whether it's around health insurance or wellness or feeling good so that we're living longer? When Social Security was created 80 years ago next year, the life expectancy was, I think, in the high 60s, 70.
Yeah.
Now people can expect to live well into their 90s.
Yeah.
When you think about this whole idea of personal fulfillment, and people were retiring at the age of 50, and now I don't think any of us are even thinking about retiring, what that has changed and how much more financial resiliency you're going to need to live this longer lifespan and to be able to do all of the other things that that we're all going to have to be able to do. So it's a huge space that we need to fill and we need to think about. But I think we're up for the challenge.
I'm getting that impression.
Good.
Tell me about the role of technology, both in healthcare, but I was, just a moment ago you were talking about communication technology and older people's use of that. How can technology be used to change this conversation and really change the way people age?
Well, I can tell you from some of the work that I did when I was in AARP Foundation that the 4 basic needs for those the most vulnerable in this country was around hunger, around housing, around income, and isolation. And this whole issue of being isolated, that people who are alone and suffering from depression are far more likely to suffer health consequences, whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure, and that we were talking about how we could use technology to help solve this issue, whether it's around cell phone technology or these tablets. So we actually just launched our AARP Real Pad that's coming on up in the market, but it was not because we wanted to get into the market. It was because we kept talking to companies and saying, we need a simpler device. We need something that's clear. We need to make sure that there's 24/7 customer service so that people who need that person-to-person voice can do it. And we couldn't get anybody to listen. And so we actually went to Intel. And actually, we're putting out a tablet, the Real Pad tablet in the market later this year. And we're trying to now encourage all of our volunteers to use it. We see it as a way of helping to solve the isolation issue, and that they're encourage communication, as well as access to information and services.
Right.
And so much of what we do is around giving people access to information and letting them make the choice for themselves about what's the right health solution, what's the right financial solution, or whatever it is they're trying to do in their life.
I love it. I love hearing about technology for aging, and it's not necessarily about healthcare.
No, not.
It's, there is so much more to life, and I'm gonna watch closely now that you're leading the force here, and I know good things will come of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.